to Ancillary Physics 3. We are discussing about the magnetic effects of current carrying wire. In that line, today we are going to discuss about the moving coil galvanometer. The moving coil ballistic galvanometer. Yesterday, in the last lecture, we have discussed D'Arsenobel moving coil galvanometer. In this lecture, we will discuss about the moving coil ballistic galvanometer. There is a very important characteristic difference between moving coil galvanometer and moving coil ballistic galvanometer. In this lecture, we will discuss about moving coil ballistic galvanometer construction and the associative theory. Come on. Moving coil ballistic galvanometer. What is the principle? The principle of the moving coil galvanometer and moving coil ballistic galvanometer. In general, the principle of the galvanometer is when a current passed through a current carrying wire, that current carrying wire, which is made up of a coil, it is suspended freely in between a magnetic field. Now, when you pass a current to that coil, current carrying coil, then the coil would experience a force. That force will be directed on the Fleming's left hand rule. This is the fundamental idea that already we know. So this is the principle for moving coil galvanometer and for the ballistic galvanometer as well. Now how to construct? The construction of ballistic galvanometer and moving coil galvanometer both are one and same. There is two characteristic differences that we will see at the end of the construction. Okay. As in the previous case of moving coil galvanometer, here we have considered a rectangular circular coil which is wound over a frame. Then there is a metal inside this frame, and this setup is put in the region of magnetic field. It is put in the region of magnetic field. So it is placed in between the poles, north and south poles of a magnetic field. So this is south pole. So this is south pole. The magnetic lines will be passing from north to south. This setup is suspended through a wire, a torsional wire. It is suspended from a torsional wire. On one end, other end is connected with the spring, then it is connected to the terminal T2. This is also connected to a terminal that we can see. There is another terminal T1. This is suspension point, torsion head. When you look back to the moving coil galvanometer, the similar diagram will be drawn. So this is torsional wire which is made up of phosphor bronze. This is made up of phosphor and bronze, and there is a mirror which is pasted over here. This mirror is used to measure the deflection, right? So this is again phosphor bronze spring, and it is a coil made up of copper. It's a copper wire, and in the center iron core is there. These two are NS or permanent magnetic field. These are permanent magnetic field, permanent magnet, and it is created with the permanent magnet that creates a field which is permanent magnetic field. So this is a mirror. These are T1, T2 are terminals used to connect current through this current into this wire. Now let's come to the two important characteristic differences of ballistic galvanometer over moving coil galvanometer. One is the frame in which the coil is wound, right? The frame in which the coil is bound. That frame is non-metallic. When you look back to the previous video, for the moving coil galvanometer, we have used the frame which is made up of aluminum, that is conducting frame. Now non-metallic frame, non-conducting frame, it is made up of ivory. There is an ivory frame. One thing, this is one important characteristic different. Another difference is this spring is hair thin, very thin film. Very thin spring. We use very thin spring in this place in order to observe the immediate response. This spring should not offer any resistance for this rotation of the coil when it is placed on a magnetic field with an electric current. So these are the two characteristic differences of the ballistic galvanometer over moving coil galvanometer. So this is the setup. Here also you can define L is the length of the coil and B is the breadth of the coil and N is the number of turns, number of windings, and B is the magnetic field. Here permanent magnetic field B. So you can say that N is number of turns, L is length of the coil, B is breadth of the coil, and area of the coil is LB, and B is magnetic induction. So with these parameters we can write when a current passing through this coil, then it experiences a torque, and the expression for the torque that we have already written many times, N I B A, where N is the number of turns, I is the current passing through it, B is the magnetic induction, and A is the area of the coil. Let this as equation number 1. And if the current, this current is not steady current, we pass the current for the momentary of time. For a small interval of time dt, we are passing the current. Then we withdraw the current. In the moving coil galvanometer, a steady state current is used, while here the current is applied for a fraction of time. In that case, if the current is passed for the short interval dt, so I is passed for a short interval dt time, then there, every fraction of time you are passing current, then you are withdrawing. What will happen? This coil will start to twist. There is an impulse created. It's like you are moving in a bus, right? When the bus is started and the momentarily it is started, if you stopped it, what will you feel? You express an impulse just like that. There is an impulse here. There is a small twist will be created, then within it is started to oscillate, the current will be withdrawn, right? So there is a momentary impulse will be observed. That produced momentary impulse that we can write tau times dt, which is all equal to ni ba dt. This is equation number 2. Suppose if I passed for a time interval t, what we have to do? We have to integrate this 0 to t tau into dt, then this side n, b, a are all constant, so integral of 0 to t I into dt. See, recall your memory, you can write dq by dt which is equal to I, right? dq by dt equal the rate of change of current, the rate of change of charge is nothing but current. Now if you take the integral, right, over dt, what you will get? This becomes q, this side becomes I into dt, isn't it? This and this will cancel out, integration differentiation will cancel out. What is the remaining? Remaining will be q, so that you can replace integral over 0 to t I into dt with q. Okay, so that this is 0 to t I into dt, that is equal to q. So this is equation number 3. This is equation number 3. Now this is nothing but total charge passing through the coil for the time given. So this q is the total charge passing through the coil with the given time t, right? Fine. Now as it is get an angular impulse, right? There is created an impulse. It is an angular impulse, not a linear impulse. It start to rotate about an axis, this axis. So there is an angular impulse. If there is an angular impulse, then there will be an angular moment of inertia. Let I be the moment of inertia. Okay, let I be the moment of inertia. Moment of inertia about the axis of the coil. Moment of inertia about the axis of the coil, and omega is the angular velocity. Omega is the angular velocity. In that case, change in angular momentum of the coil for the momentary impulse. So the change in angular momentum. That you can denote, the change in angular momentum will be denoted as I omega. Okay, so that I omega is equal to this one. This you can write actually n b a q, right? Not this. Let's take this as equation 3. So this as equation 4. So this change in angular moment is equal to this one, right? The total impulse created. Okay, so that I omega is equal to n b a q. It is equation number 5. This is one part. In another part, Okay. In another part, this system is rotating, right? This system is rotating, and for this rotation we can write the kinetic energy. So kinetic energy of the system, that we can write 1 by 2 k theta 1 by 2 I omega square, that is moment of inertia multiplied by the angular velocity, right? So this kinetic energy is used to turn this moving coil from 0 to angle theta. When you use this this is the kinetic energy of the system that is required to twist that galvanometer for about an angle theta. Okay, and if that is the case, if the coil is twisted for an angle theta, then if the current is withdrawn, what will happen? This wire, right? This wire is twisted. If the coil is twisted for angle theta, then this torsional wire also would also be turned for angle theta. Now if the current is released, what will happen? It slowly, as this wire is elastic wire, this will slowly coming back to its original position. So there is a restoring. Because of this couple, there is a twist, and if it is released, then it will restores back. So that we can denote restoring couple, right? Restoring torque per unit twist. So C is the restoring torque. So theta is the angle of twist for the above kinetic energy. C is the restoring torque. C is the restoring torque per unit twist. So that here work done on the suspension wire and work done on the moving coil, both are same, right? We can write 1 by 2 c theta square equal to 1 by 2 I omega square, or you can write I omega square, this 2 and 2 will cancel, I omega square equal to c theta square. This is equation number 6. Then you can consider this setup, that is the coil which is suspended through an wire, torsional wire, that you can assume like a simple pendulum. So that period of oscillation of the simple pendulum for the simple pendulum, you can write the same analogy you can apply here. So period of oscillation become T, which is equal to 2 pi square root of I by C. So this, in this equation, I is the moment of inertia, C is the restoring couple, twisting couple per unit twist. And if you want to know how this expression T is equal to 2 pi square root of I by C is obtained, you may refer our video, video number 3 or video number 4, which is listed in the playlist of basic physics. That is the course going for forensic science as of now in our channel. You may ask to refer that if you want to get the expression for T is equal to 2 pi square root of I by C. Fine. Now you can take the multiplication, you will get T, that is equal to 4 pi square I by C. Or we can rewrite this equation for I, so that in this case this becomes I, which is equal to T square C by 4 pi square. This is equation number 7. Suppose if you multiply equation number 6 with equation number 7, what you will get? Left hand side it becomes I square omega square. The right hand side this becomes C theta square c square, here also there is a c, theta square t square by 4 pi square. It will become like this. Or if we write this equation for I omega, then it becomes c theta t by 2 pi. So this is equation number 8. Now you can compare this with I omega. Here there is an I omega, here there is an I omega. Equation 4 and 8, then you can write NBAQ, which is equal to c theta t by 2 pi. Or you can rewrite this equation for Q. So this becomes Q, which you can write t pi 2 pi, then c theta by c by not theta, c by NBA multiplied by theta, which is equal to Q. Or you can write Q is equal to K times theta, or Q is proportional to theta, where K is called ballistic reduction factor. K is called ballistic reduction factor. What is that? What we have inferred from this equation? In this, in the moving coil ballistic galvanometer, at the end, what we have obtained? We have obtained the charge, the total charge passed through the coil when a current is momentarily allowed to pass into it. Right? Earlier, in the moving coil galvanometer, what we have calculated, there a steady state current is passed and we have measured the amount of current. Small value of current we have measured. We have written an expression for I. That we have obtained an expression that I is proportional to theta. That is what we have obtained there. So I is proportional to k theta, where k is equal to c by NBA. Where k is equal to simply c by NBA. That was the expression we have obtained. But now we have obtained an expression for Q, that is capital K theta, where K is the ballistic reduction factor. Here we have the expression for K as T by 2 pi C by NBA. Here we can able to measure the total charge passed through it. So what is the characteristic difference over the moving coil galvanometer and ballistic galvanometer? The one important difference on the experimental setup is, this is the coil is wounded on a non-metallic frame which is made up of ivory. Another thing is, this spring is hair thin, very small, right? This spring, where that spring is a little harder. One different. And the entire thing, in the moving coil galvanometer, we have measured the current passing through it. There we have used steady state current, while here the current is passed for a momentary time, and what we have measured is, we have measured the total charge, right? So let me recall the experimental part, the theoretical part alone once again, how we have obtained this equation for a better understanding. So in this setup, assume that there are n number of findings are made over the ivory non-metallic frame. So n number of turns are wound in the ivory non-metallic frame. So number of turns is n, the momentary current passing through is I, and B is the magnetic induction, and A is the area which is obtained by the product of length and breadth of the coil, rectangular coil. Now assume that the I is passed for a time dt. Then we can write initially for in general for a torque, we can write tau is equal to NIBA. If this current is passed for a momentary time, only for a small time, then we have to multiply dt with both sides, and we will get tau dt is equal to NIBA dt. And if you are allowed to pass the current for a time interval t, then we can integrate over both sides 0 to t, right? Left side it becomes left side 0 to t tau dt, right side we have a term 0 to t I dt, 0 to t I dt that we can write as q with this understanding, that is the rate of change of charge is nothing but I. So if you integrate it, you will get integral of I dt is nothing but q. We can replace this term with q, right? And fine. So this q is the total charge passing through this ballistic galvanometer, which is to be calculated. That's our target. And if I is the moment of inertia for this passed current, then I is the moment of inertia, omega is the angular velocity for this twisting, for this throw, right? It is twisted, so that it means here you could experience in this glass will rotate for a fraction of for a momentary time, so that you will get this reflected light will go for a throw. Okay, so that in this aspect, we can write I is the moment of inertia, omega is the angular velocity. Now the change in the angular momentum we can write I omega. So this change in angular momentum, which is equal to this one, so that we can equate this, we get this expression I omega equal to NBAQ. And there is a kinetic energy of the system to move this coil, right? That kinetic energy we can write 1 by 2 I omega square. And we define angle of twist of the wire is theta, and restoring couple of the wire is C, and we can equate the kinetic energy with this this one. So 1 by 2 C theta square equal to 1 by 2 I omega square. From this we can write I omega square equal to C theta square. So period of oscillations of this system, which we have compared this system with simple pendulum, and we have obtained this expression, that is t square 4 pi square t equal to 2 pi IC. And processing all this, we can rewrite this equation for I and multiply this equation 7 with the equation 6. We obtain an expression here, and you can rewrite this expression for I omega and compare this I omega with the equation number 5, and you rewrite this equation for Q. We will obtain the expression for Q. Fine. And in this, see, in this setup, this moment of inertia of the system is assumed to be very high, right? The moment of inertia of the ballistic galvanometer is assumed to be very high, so that this twist will be very quick, right? This twist will be very quick, right? What happens? Actually, the charge is allowed to pass for a very small amount of time. That is also another point we have to consider. The charge is considered for a small fraction of time, so that before responding to the charge for the coil, before start to responding to the charge should be passed through it. When you pass the current, there is a force will be created, right? For that force, there is a force couple will be created, so that coil start to deflect. Before starting the deflection, this momentary charge should pass through it. That is one thing, which means the current should be so quickly passed through. Another thing is, it should have high moment of inertia. This system has a high moment of inertia, so that this impulse get registered. There is a momentary impulse that will be get registered. Fine. And here it is mounted on a frame, is wounded on a non-metallic frame, so that it has a fairly large period of oscillation. Which means once the momentarily it's twisted, then when it is coming back slowly, when it started to coming back slowly, it will not immediately, it won't come back. It will slowly come back, and there is an oscillations created. In ballistic galvanometer, there is an oscillation created. While in the steady state galvanometer, that is moving coil galvanometer, if you remove the current, it will come back to zero. But now if you remove the current, in previous case, if you remove the current, it will come back to zero. In moving coil galvanometer, there the metallic frame is there, a metal in the metallic frame only the coil is wounded. But here what happens is, here we have frame, the frame is non-metallic frame. So if you leave the current, if you stop the current, then what happens? The momentary current is passed, so that there is a throw occurred, the light is moved to one extreme. Then if you withdraw the current, it slowly comes back and goes to the next extreme, then again goes and comes, which means there is a back and forth oscillations will be happen, and slowly it will settle to zero. Essentially it has a large period of oscillation, and it is assumed that this the decay is negligible. Ideally we assume that this decay is negligible, but due to air resistance and when the coil is twisting in a magnetic field, there is an induced current. So because of the air resistance and because of the induced current, what happens? It will slowly start to decay. Otherwise it is assumed that this oscillations is continuous without any decay. So this is the idea. But here the one point, one important point is, in the last we said this decay is assumed to be negligible, but due to air resistance and due to the induced current, there is a decay, right? If that is the case, then the first throw itself will not be the original throw. Even though we have considered that before the coil is started to move, the current passes through it. Once the coil started to move, there is an induced current that will be created in the coil. That induced current will oppose the movement of the coil, so that this throw, observe for the first throw itself, less than that of the original throw. That is, if there is an air resistance, if there is no air resistance, if there is no induced current, one throw would be experienced, right? That length will not be observed practically, so that even the first throw will be lesser than that of the ideal one. So that we need to make the correction factor. How to make the correction factor, and that correction factor will be fitted into this expression, and how to make that correction factor will be discussed in the next lecture. Thank you.